and welcome to We the People. This past week, the Union Cabinet cleared a contentious bill. The Cabinet approved a complete ban on all kinds of commercial surrogacy, not just for foreigners, but for Indians as well. It has allowed for what's called altruistic surrogacy, that's a family member, a close relative, carrying your child for you if you can't carry your own, but restricted this right as well to legally married heterosexual couples who have to have been married for a minimum of 5 years. Asked about the rights of single people, people who live together but are not married, or the gay community to also be parents, mothers or fathers, Sushma Swaraj, while briefing the media on this cabinet decision, said that no, they are not allowed to make use of surrogates because this goes against our ethos. Sushma Swaraj also appealed to relatives within the family, women within the family, to step up and help married couples who can't carry children, who can't bear children rather, to help them be parents. And asked about single parents and gay people again, she said, well, they can adopt. On the program today, we ask whether this is an invasion of the right to choose. It's a decision that is taken in the name of women who are surrogates, to protect them, to protect them from being exploited, and perhaps a certain amount of regulation, of course, is necessary. But by focusing on those who commission instead of on the protection of those who actually are surrogates, has the government got it all wrong? Let me start with Lalita Kumaramangalam, and I start with you not just because you're the chairperson of the National Commission for Women, but you were actually part of a panel that piloted this ban on commercial surrogacy. Now, I can understand some reservations that why are only poor women used as surrogates? Should they be compensated better? Should they have more rights and a voice in the system? But a blanket ban that makes a sweeping social judgment on the private choices of people's sexuality, their right to get married or not get married, and then make a second judgment on whether they can be parents, seems like a police state.
The NCW and the ICMR together had this huge consultation with a cross-section of all stakeholders about a year ago.
Yeah.
And while I agree that the law does seem a little tough, the fact is that we are here looking at the corresponding rights of both the surrogate mothers and the children who are born out of those surrogate mothers.
That's fair.
Versus what is called the various rights that Indians have to have their own baby, our own blood, and all of that goes on, right?
Yeah.
The NCW got into it because we have had too many complaints from both the caretakers or the caregivers, two children who have been abandoned after having been born as surrogate babies, and too many young girls who have been trafficked have complained to us saying that they have been in some way or the other exploited. There are several cases.
In one sentence, do you support this complete ban on commercial surrogacy?
Yes. You can have surrogacy. Nobody is banning surrogacy per se.
But you don't want the wombs to be rented.
But we don't want, we don't want, Indian wombs have been rented now, have become available for rent. Let me put it that way. And it's now a $1 billion industry that's growing.
Renuka, as a former Women and Child Development Minister, do you agree that there are the rights of the surrogate mothers and the rights of children who are born from surrogate mothers to be protected?
Of course.
And that there is something discomforting, it could be argued, about renting wombs?
Of course, there is the whole moral ethos that we all look at, and of course the rights of the children who are born of surrogacy. Many countries have denied them citizenship. So all that needs to be addressed. Now you have the Japanese baby who's without citizenship even in Japan or in India. That's there. But the bill doesn't address any of those. It's quite a blanket that they have put out there. I'm terrified that while you mean well and you're going and the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions, you are going to drive this whole thing underground.
Yeah.
And there is nothing you can do. What have you done on the kidney transplant business? In fact, one of the kidney transplant doctors has even got a Padma Award. The chap who was involved in nefarious activities.
So is your concern that it's going to create an underground mafia, a black market industry, or is your concern the deep puritanical sort of judgmentalism? And you know, Lalita, that really disturbs me. I can see, as somebody who cares about the rights of women, that there is a complex question on the fact that it is mostly poor women who are used as surrogate mothers. But to make a
Always
judgment
poor
on single
women who use
people,
the
on people who
surrogate
choose not to get married.
No,
on
and then
people-
you have to wait 5 years when you want to have a child. Suppose I know when I get married I'm infertile. I have to wait 5 years to have a child. I'll decide at 42 I want to get married.
What
I
if
have
you
to
don't
wait
want to get
5
married
years.
and
My
you want to have a
reproductive
child?
years are
What
over.
what if you do not want to get married and you want to have a child?
You can adopt.
No,
So
no,
then
no, no,
let's-
that is an option. No, you can't
Let's
say
bring in the
that
others. Let's
adoption
bring in
is
the
the natural
Let's
answer
bring in
to
the
anyone
others.
who
Let's bring in
can't
the
have a
others.
child.
Let's start with Naina Patel. One of the ironies, because you're of course from Anand, Gujarat, is that it is in fact from a BJP state where one of the
I don't
key
think this
sort
has
of
anything
centers.
to do- I don't think this has anything to do with politics. This is a social question that's come up. It's just that we're in government in the
No,
center
Gujarat
at the
has
moment.
the highest
that's
number
all.
of surrogacy by the
Okay,
way.
let's
it
bring in
does.
Naina Patel. The larger issue. Let's go beyond BJP Congress. The larger issue. As somebody who has, some would say, thrived and commercially benefited, there is an argument that says, and I know Mohan will come into this as well, that it is the medical community that has benefited from surrogate mothers and not the surrogate mothers themselves. They're not paid enough. They're used again and again and again. There isn't a cap on the number of times you can use poor women to rent out their womb. Are you at all morally discomforted with this whole notion of renting out a womb?
Absolutely no. What I have worked, mine is an open book. Anybody can see. First of all, clarity on Manji. Manji was never an abandoned
The
child.
baby Manji, the Japanese
baby
baby,
Manji.
yes.
The couple during the process had divorced, but the contract with the ICMR had already been signed. Where in case of divorce, father was to take care of the custody of Manji, and that has happened. Manji just turned 8, and they've sent lovely pictures from Japan to me.
But she has no citizenship anywhere. She's a nowhere baby now.
No. They've applied, and Japan court has agreed now.
8 years.
But it has been done much before.
But you know,
That is
foreigners,
there.
I would still say there's some complexity that you shouldn't have people coming in, swooping in on poor Indian women, using
That
them
is
as surrogates.
perfect.
Let's
Whatever
talk
you
about-
say,
let's talk about
let's
the
talk
rights
about the right
bill.
of the bill
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
First of all, you say that there should not be commercial surrogacy. Whenever I have done 25 cases within the family, there has been give and take of money.
Even in the family?
In name of kind. Somebody
course, I
buys a
believe
house,
that.
somebody buys a car, somebody gives a jewelry set.
Yeah.
So that happens. Nobody takes it without, and nobody gives service without expecting
You are saying
something.
ki even if it's the sister-in-law or
They
whatever,
have accepted,
there
and
is
this
a
has
lane
been-
that
yes.
happens.
And it is a very small number that will come. In organ donation, a father, husband, brother, anybody can do it. Your husband wants to help the wife, but how can he become a surrogate? So the choice becomes very limited where they can find somebody from the family. And above this, if you just force a family member, there is a sister who doesn't have a uterus, and the brother's wife will be forced by the mother-in-law, father-in-law that you do surrogacy for her, otherwise we will throw you out. What about that social
Yes,
pressure
I
that she is
agree.
going
Yes.
to go? On this aspect, when
Yes.
So but let me just get Pinky here and then we'll get the others. Pinky, one is this interesting revelation that even when it's within the family, money is traded. I would actually take it further and say, suppose no money is traded. How do you know the agency of choice belongs to the bhabi? The point is, in conservative joint families, I mean, Telegraph had a front page where they invoked Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. We all remember the movie where, you know, Madhuri Dixit is under pressure to marry the sister's husband. So take it a step further. Now she'll be under pressure to carry the child of the sister's husband. Where is the agency of choice for women?
First of all, surrogacy on an Indian level, so to say, and I'm not going to the ethos only, let me just say it is something which is happening and has happened for the ages, right from Krishna times to continuing onwards. So if the social pressures are not coming because of any law, they would have been existing even earlier when you didn't have a child and you wanted, or the mother-in-law came and told the other sister-in-law to have a child.
But nobody in mythology told us if those women were doing it voluntarily.
No, fair enough. No, but
these are stories. We don't know what choices those women made.
Let us for a time being go beyond mythology to say we all know of altruistic surrogacy which has happened between families. As far as you're talking about different people who are allowed or not allowed to have surrogacy, I don't know why we are constantly looking as if this bill is banning something. It should be looked at the other way to say what it is allowing, which was earlier hitherto in fact not allowed by law. So what law is doing, the bill as it stands today, is permitting, recognizing altruistic surrogacy so that you have the rights defined.
It is putting so much premium on marriage. First of all, which as an unmarried woman, I have huge problems with. It is making putting a moral value on the institution of marriage.
Yes. Let me take the subject away from the woman who wants to have a child to the real question. In surrogacy, what is important, as it is in adoption, as it is in others, is also the rights of the child. A child who comes out of a broken marriage, whether it is out of relationship, a child who comes out of a surrogacy relationship, which is ultimately broken up, is going to have a serious problem. You do need to contend with a child having a stable institution. You may call it marriage, you may call it what you like. So you do need the law to regulate the
Do you
atmosphere.
agree with the minister saying that single people and live-in couples and gay people having children goes against our
Even
ethos?
you and I know that most live-in people, when they want to have children, they do go and get married. Most live-in people will not have children.
let me
while they continue living.
Let me bring in
That's a
Kamini.
social
I said
convenience
most.
sometimes.
I said most, and I stand by that, Barka. I
Can I say
I have
something
quite
here?
a few friends who say that.
Okay, I'll get Lalita and then Kamini Rao. Lalita, go ahead. Yeah.
Barka, the fact is that women in this country have very little choice on various aspects. I think everybody here agrees that many young girls don't want to get married, but there's so much social pressure, they get married.
Yeah.
People don't want to pay dowry, but they pay dowry. As Pinky pointed out, in this whole debate, what we are also doing is neglecting to look at the rights of the child.
But this is not about that, right?
It always has to be, Barka. You can't ignore.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be.
You are
I'm just saying
bringing-
I haven't heard enough conversation on the rights of the child. I haven't heard conversation enough on the rights of women like Jyoti and Mandakini. These are two surrogate mothers, and they're going to talk a little bit about
Right.
why
We
they
want
made
to
the
hear
choices
their
they
opinion.
did. But let me get Kamini Rao in first. Dr. Rao.
First and foremost, the ICMR bill was there. It was from the government of India.
Yeah.
We had this sanction, and this has been from 1999. We've had several consultative meetings with the ministries, and we've come to the stage where we've got a 2014 bill that's there. Now, when the government themselves have actually involved all of us in trying to bring out a draft bill, I think when this surrogate bill that was taken out of the ART bill and then put across with just a few ministers, I want to know where is the professional body that comes into this. Yes. I mean, I don't think politicians cannot become doctors. We spent 30 years reading, and we would like to know that we are the people on the ground that actually face the patients. So I want to know how 4 ministers can make a decision on surrogacy, talk about whether people have to get married before they have a baby. A single woman can have a baby and she can send the child to school and have a guardian.
Absolutely.
And I
it's
don't
her
understand
reproductive
why.
right. She doesn't have to have
So is
baggage to have a
is there
child.
another
Absolutely.
perspective that is not moral, that is not cultural, but Mohan, you have often made this point that you're not actually approaching this from a puritanical social
not.
ethos argument.
Not at all.
But you have concerns. What are your concerns?
The concern is obvious here. Everybody is talking about rights. Nobody is talking about justice. And you can't have rights in the absence of justice. And justice can only come in an equal world. You're exploiting what is called structural violence here. The fact that people are made to do certain things because
What if
of
they
the
say
situations.
we chose to do so?
Sorry?
You'll hear a lot of women, as I'm sure you'll hear from
Oh,
them
I'm
now.
sure you will.
They'll
I'm
say this
sure
was
you
our
will.
choice.
Let's just look at the larger picture for a minute.
Yeah.
This is part of a multi-billion-dollar global industry. And this global industry is also related to the medical biotechnology industry, which harvests women's bodies for all kinds of things. Stem cells come from this. And it's a large industry. Now, without surrogacy, without ART, you won't have the stem cell industry in the world. So we cannot look at them in isolation.
I think
The
you
second,
can do.
excuse me, the
This is
second
wrong
thing, I
understood
think we should also
scientific
look
message.
at which
Stem cell
countries are
doesn't come
permitting
from
it.
IVF.
Ukraine, Russia,
no.
India,
US,
17
It's
states and
incorrect.
17
UK.
states. 17 states.
I wanted to
incorrect.
elaborate. There is a
One minute, one
huge
at a
trade
time.
in-
On surrogacy itself, you are opposed commercial surrogacy because?
I oppose commercial surrogacy because it represents what I call reproductive servitude.
Now, Kamini, we do have to, and we cannot escape the fact that women like you and me are not going to line up to be commercially purchased surrogate wombs, right? So there is a class dimension here. We need to address it.
I think no surrogate is going to be forced, and I think regulations will make that difference. The point is we don't have regulations here, and I can tell you that surrogates are not illiterate. They may be illiterate, but they are not ignorant, and they know their rights. And I know very many times that the commissioning parents have been taken for a ride by the surrogates who actually take the money and then go and abort the fetus. And then there's nothing you can do about it.
So let's-
now, we would like to say, why are you talking about only surrogates getting
As
victimized?
victims.
You can get even the commissioning parents victimized.
You're arguing regulation will protect, Kamini,
Absolutely.
you're arguing regulation will protect
Yes.
the surrogates more than a blanket ban. Mohan, I'll come back to you. I just want to get, Aditya Advani is a gay father of twins. He has in this environment, I think, very bravely come out and to share his story, because we have the despicable 377 still in place. And now we are actually looking at a situation where people like you, Aditya, you do have twins with your partner, born from surrogate?
Yes.
Lovely. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Why did you decide to use a surrogate?
Because I'm a gay man. I had womb envy for many years, but I couldn't carry my own child. I did talk to other lesbians to see if they would carry my child. I had talked to other single women, but I couldn't find anyone interested. I am gay. I came out when I was quite young, when I was 25. I met my partner when I was 28. And contrary to what other people think, gay people do form loving long-term relationships. I've been with my partner 25 years. And many years we wanted children. Like all human beings, we want to build families. We love children. We want to have a family of our own. And we thought about it a lot. And after almost 17, 18 years together, we managed to find someone. We were living in the US at that time, and we came to India to have our children and also to grow them in India, because I want them to grow in India, be Indians, and set an example for our society that it is possible for gay families to exist.
And your partner is not Indian?
My partner is not Indian. We actually all technically Americans. Our children are as well. I'm a PIO card holder. I don't think that's neither here nor there.
No, it applies now with the new rules.
Yeah,
It will be relevant.
PIO.
That's the only reason I bring it up.
Right. And I personally, my feeling is this bill is a mean-spirited bill. And it just deprives people from furthering their love. It deprives the surrogate mothers of a livelihood. Talk of reproductive servitude. What is the institution of marriage in India? They've forced their daughters to have forced marriages. Isn't that reproductive servitude? They kill their daughters. Indians kill their daughters routinely. Isn't that reproductive servitude? There's so many rapes happening here. Talk about the things that are really important. Here it is, a loving couple wants to have a child.
Why not adopt?
Well, gay
That's
people are not allowed to.
I think that's a fair
gay
question
people
to
are not
pose.
allowed to adopt.
That's in
Sorry?
India, but if you were in America, you could have adopted
Well,
there.
why not in India? We should be allowed to adopt in India
that-
too.
no,
Why is that against that?
Lalita, you have a question to Aditya, then I want to get Radhika. Lalita, you have a question to
Why
Aditya?
shouldn't they have the choice?
Lalita.
Barkha, it's an open secret that when I started work in the public area, I started work in HIV/AIDS prevention. So I have nothing against people who are homosexuals, the entire LGBT community. I've worked with them for the last 26 years. But that is a different topic, and it's also a very complicated argument, which is not really.
I don't think it's complicated. I just think we need to get rid of 377. I don't think there's any complication in this.
You're just
Can I have
the
my
complexity
say?
of
One
opinions
point
that
gay
people
also.
have around it in this country.
Yes.
But the fact here is that you have too many people who come in from other countries where surrogacy is banned. So one of the things, as he pointed out, was that the whole concept of this rent-a-womb thing is also not creating a very empowering atmosphere for.
So CII did a study which says that 50% of all, this is an old study, but I think it will probably still hold, that 50% of all surrogates children are actually born to couples who are outside of India, right? So is there a point in this sort of, this goes well beyond medical tourism. I think that's the point that Lalita is making, that you have these people coming in from outside, their own countries don't allow this, so they come here. Are you comfortable with that?
No, I'm not comfortable with the Indian DNA being exploited in that sense. But regulatory authorities are precisely that they help set direction. Now, many countries have banned because they don't want to give citizenship in surrogacy. So that's why they put a blanket ban, which is actually quite questionable when you go to look at their ethics. But I'm not saying that someone can come and poach on India and our poor women or uninformed women and take back their children. But that's why the bill comes in, that we help set direction.
So you're all arguing for
not
regulation, but
blanket
Lalita
ban.
and Pinky
Not a
and
blanket
Mohan are
ban.
arguing for a blanket
There was
ban.
a medical visa clause given by the previous government, where the foreign couple,
Yes.
when they are coming, they have to produce n number of documents, where one of them was that surrogacy is legal in their country. They're
So that the
medically
child
needed.
citizenship is
So
looked
I just
that
want to
was
ask
very
Aditya one
important.
question.
But
I just want to ask
also-
Aditya one question.
The Gujarat case which came and which is still pending in the Supreme Court, and the baby Manji case also, are people from countries where it
Yeah,
wasn't
so
recognized.
that
It happened,
guidelines were
and
there.
that is why. Look, the point, Renuka, is: are we a breeding ground for countries?
No, we are
which-
not saying that
it
we should
seems
be
we
a
are.
breeding
The
ground.
whole argument
We are
would
not
be-
saying that we should be a breeding. What we are
Somebody
questioning
says,
is
I
the
can't-
government's
I
authority
can't
to
adopt in
step
India.
into our private bedrooms and decide at what age I
This
have
is
to have
not-
a child, how long I have to be married
No.
to a fellow. It's nobody's business. That's what we are
The
protesting.
question is not that. The question is, today, when surrogacy is a feature which is permissible only on the basis of rights which are given, and as far as children are concerned. Today we are talking about parents who say we can adopt in US, but I want a choice to adopt in India.
Let Aditya
I mean, can
take that.
Indians
Let
have a
Aditya
choice
take
in
that.
America?
Let Aditya take that.
I mean, there's a
Let
limit
come
on what
from-
you can have choices
Let Aditya
on.
take that. Let Aditya take that. Aditya, the point of India being a breeding ground, as you heard Pinky say,
Well, foreigners come here for everything. They go for tourism. You Indians go abroad for
But
their
surrogate
medical.
moms is not tourism.
Well, the surrogate has a choice. This bill is not protecting the surrogate has a choice to do the surrogacy. They do it willingly. They make money from it. They further. What does it matter if the person is foreigner or Indian? It doesn't have anything to do with it.
So I will hear from these women in a moment. Radhika, let's bring you in.
I just feel like the bill itself has more holes in it than a Salman Khan film plotline at this point, right? Like, and the one that I find most appalling is the whole that we're so naive that we believe altruistic surrogacy has any legs at all. I mean,
yes, I know. That I agree. Yes,
it's not like, you know, it's not a favor of like, can I borrow a bowl of sugar? I'm making a cake. Like, it's a big thing, and I just, for one, don't have children and quite frankly don't want them, but that's just me. I'm not going to tell other people what to do.
It's personal. Everybody has the right to make a personal choice.
So the other thing is the discriminatory nature of it is epic, because this whole thing of like gay people can't do, single people. I mean, look at Donald Trump. His parents are married. Barack Obama, single mom. I mean, I don't think we can say, you know, that one's better than the other. And Barka, I was searching and I found also some Indian politicians, but I knew what would happen to your show if I mentioned any of them. So I decided to leave that be. And the last thing that I just want to say is that, you know, it's sexist, yeah, because I feel like the only people really suffering, to be honest, is not even parents and whatnot. It's the women who've chosen to use this as a source of income. I mean, then ban sperm banks, man. Ban sperm banks.
You actually said that if men could produce babies, we'd corporatize the hell out of it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But Radhika, elaborate on this thing on why you're skeptical about altruistic surrogacy. Because one thing I want to ask Lalita is that if you were going to ban it, why didn't you just ban the whole
Completely,
jabang,
I
right?
agree.
Because I just can't accept that a bhabhi or a behan
No way.
really wants to carry somebody else's baby.
Oh, imagine the Kansumama
Ground reality.
They'll all come. This Sali Adigar Wali will just translate into something else.
No, and thank you. And to be honest with you, in my family, I actually do have a relative who wanted to have a baby, wanted to then finally went in for surrogacy. And the fact of the matter is, my husband's family, they were conservative people. Yeah. This business of you have a baby on that one's behalf and all could totally have gone down. Nobody wants to do it.
Yeah.
That's the reason we are paying people to do it.
So I want to ask Lalita that, but let's just hear from Mandakini and Jyoti here, just 2 minutes. These are surrogate moms. In fact, they are pregnant at the moment. They're both carrying children for obviously other people. आप मंदाकिनी हैं, आप ज्योति हैं, दोनों पेट से हैं आप ये बताइए कहाँ से हैं आप क्या काम करती हैं वैसे कि यही काम करती हैं?
मैं उड़ीसा से हूँ।
उड़ीसा से। और आप?
बंगाल से।
आपने ये कितनी बार आप कर चुके हैं पहले? फर्स्ट
पहली बार।
क्यों फैसला किया आपने?
ऐसा कोई रीजन नहीं था जब फैसला करने के लिए। हम कंपनी में काम करेंगे तो हम तो इतना पढ़े लिखे भी नहीं है, कंपनी में काम करेंगे 5,000 मिलेगा, हमको ऐसे भी थोड़ा बहुत हमारी बेटे के लिए कि बच्चे के लिए हम उनकी लाइफ के लिए हम कुछ करेंगे तो इसमें तो कोई
कितना पैसा मिलता है?
3 लाख।
और आप कहते हैं कंपनी में काम करेंगे तो 5,000
मिलेगा
तो 3 लाख बेटर है अपने बच्चों के लिए,
अपने बच्चों के लिए,
उनके फ्यूचर के लिए,
उनके फ्यूचर के लिए अपने बच्चे के लिए।
पर यहाँ पे ये एक बात है, अगर आपके पास और पैसे होते तो शायद आप ये नहीं करते। तो लोग ये भी कहते हैं कि ये इसको मर्जी नहीं कहा जा सकता क्योंकि इसमें गरीबी और मजबूरी की बहुत एलिमेंट है। तो इसको लेके आप क्या बोलेंगी ज्योति?
ये हमारी ये मतलब जितने जैसे हम गरीब हैं वैसे ही मतलब कितने और भी दीदियाँ हैं जो हमारे साथ जो इतनी गरीबी है। मतलब हमारी ये है मैम कि हम महीने में काम करेंगे, हम काम करेंगे महीने में 5,000 6,000 कमाएंगे, हमारा हस्बैंड महीने में 8,000 कमा पाएंगे। तो मैम ये है कि हमारा मतलब कि ये करने का मतलब इसीलिए है कि हम अपने बच्चे के भविष्य अच्छा बना सके,
उनको भी हम पढ़ा लिखा के मतलब जितना हम अनपढ़ गवार है इससे हम ज्यादा बना सके,
आप अपने बच्चे को पढ़ा लिखा सके। आपके कितने बच्चे हैं? अब वैसे
एक ही लड़की, मेरी एक बेटा।
लड़की
नहीं,
आपकी लड़की आपका लड़का। तो आपको कैसे ढूंढा, आपको कैसे इसके बारे में पता लगा?
हमारे जो मतलब अड़ोस पड़ोस की जो दीदी थी मतलब उन्होंने सरोगेट करके आए तो मतलब उन्होंने बताए मेरे को कि मतलब कि ऐसी होती है तो प्रॉब्लम खत्म हो जाती है, मतलब वहाँ कोई ऐसी परेशानी नहीं है।
आपकी फैमिली ने किस तरह से रिस्पॉन्ड किया?
फैमिली तो मैम हस्बैंड है।
हाँ, कैसे रिस्पॉन्ड किया?
बस मैम आए आके पूछे कि मतलब क्या होता है इसमें। हाँ, उन्होंने हस्बैंड ने भी यही बोले कि इसमें कोई गलत नहीं है, तो इसमें कोई गलत नहीं है, हमारा जो प्रॉब्लम है वो खत्म हो रहा है।
ज्योति जी, मैं आपसे पूछना चाह रही हूँ, आपके सास और ससुर जी ने हाँ कह दिया?
एक्चुअली मेरा सास ससुर है नहीं, मेरा एक देवर है, एक देवर है। तो मैम ये है कि हमें तो अपने फैमिली से लेना देना है ना।
ना मैं ये सवाल पूछना है, अगर आपका ये सरोगेट बच्चा बेटा हुआ
जी,
तो आपको तकलीफ होगी दे देने में?
नहीं मैम,
कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता।
नहीं।
शाबाश।
Mohan has a question. Mohan.
I do have a question for them, but I'd like to, for the first time recently, I heard the voices of children born through surrogacy in the United States. And I was completely taken aback, and this was a story in the New York Times, a fairly long one, which said that they are people who felt sullied. These are the voices I'm hearing for the first time, and I think it's important to place them for discussion.
They felt sullied.
Sullied.
In what way? Because they didn't know who they were confused
No,
about.
that they were born through commercial.
अगर आपको कभी लगता है कि
Marriage and dowry is a commercial
बच्चे से लगाव हो सकता है?
नहीं,
कैसे पता?
ये पता है ये हमारी बच्चा नहीं है।
क्योंकि मैम ये तो हमने मतलब ये है ना कि हम किसी और की बच्चा हम अपने पेट में रख रहे हैं, तो मतलब हमारा इसमें थोड़ा बहुत लगाव तो होगा मैम, पर इतना नहीं होगा जितना
जैसे
अपना
हमारी
बच्चा
बच्चे से होता है लगा। हमारी बच्चे जब होता है तब हमको वो इतना लगा होता है, किसी को सोने के लिए भी हम नहीं देते, लेकिन ये बच्चे को हमें इतना।
यहाँ ये चर्चा चल रही है कि जो आप कर रही हैं उस पर पूरी रोक लगा दी जाए, क्योंकि ये गरीब औरतों के साथ एक्सप्लॉयटेशन है।
नहीं, गरीबी औरत के साथ अच्छा हो रहा है, लेकिन सरकार ये नहीं सोचते हैं जब गरीब कोई 2 पैसा कमाए, लेकिन सरकार सोचता है जो बड़े वो कमाए, लेकिन कभी ऊपर नहीं उठे। उनके बच्चे तो पढ़ेंगे क्यों? वो तो गरीबी रहेंगे। उड़ीसा में हर साल बाढ़ आता है, तो हम कहाँ जाएंगे? हम तो दिल्ली आएंगे ना, दिल्ली का झाड़ू बर्तन करेंगे क्या? नहीं करेंगे ना, तो ये काम करेंगे क्या? खराब कर दिया, खराब नहीं है, अच्छा काम किया ना।
झाड़ू बर्तन से बेहतर ये है।
हाँ,
एक आपको लगता है कि गरीब को दबाने की कोशिश ये
हाँ, सरकार तो।
पर अगर पैसा होता तब तो नहीं करती
न, पैसा होता तो क्यों करते?
तब तो नहीं करते मैम, फिर भी।
अच्छा मुझे ये बताइए,
Okay, let's take comments, हाँ।
आपके एक बार हो गया, अगर आपके हस्बैंड और आपका कोई ऐसे मजबूरी हो या कहीं ऐसा हो, तो अगर हस्बैंड बोल देगा कि अच्छा दोबारा हम कर लेंगे सरोगेट, ताकि एक आध बच्चा और
कितनी बारी करने के
4 लाख तो मिल जाएगा।
मैम वैसे
एक बार
करने के लिए तो मतलब अगर चाहे तो, अगर यहाँ से सही सलामत हम जाएंगे, हमें भरोसा है।
पर आपका
तो
बॉडी
मतलब
मशीन तो नहीं है ना, बॉडी एक मशीन नहीं है।
नहीं मैम, मैं मतलब बता रही हूँ कि जितने भी मेरे सामने जितने भी दीदी है, जितने भी नॉर्मल चाहे ऑपरेशन होके गई है, सब अपने अपने घर में इतने खुश है कि मैम वो जाके अपना बिजनेस खोल लिए, और किसी ने अपना पार्लर चला रही है, किसी ने अपने बच्चे की शादी करा रही है,
किसी के बच्चे को अच्छी भविष्य भी।
So are we now? I'm going to take questions now. Are we going to see?
1 minute. I just want to say one thing.
Okay, I'm taking comments only. Lalita, go ahead.
It's been made very clear that it's poverty that has driven them to this. So shouldn't it be that in the long term we look at providing them alternatives to get out of that poverty without having to rent their womb? Right. 1 minute.
So are we comfortable? 1 minute. The question that comes up here is, should surrogacy be a means to livelihood? Are we, Naina, comfortable with that?
No, we do not want to make
और एस्पिरेशन कि भाई मैं घर में झाड़ू पोंछा मारूंगी, मुझे नहीं करना है, मेरा 8 महीने में 3 लाख रुपए है, मैं पार्लर खोल लूंगी, मैं ये कर लूंगी, मैं वो। This is my emancipation.
That is perfectly all right. It is her choice. We should allow them to choose. We should not say because she's poor, she doesn't have a choice.
Exactly.
तो ban
1 minute, Aditya. 1 minute. I'm coming to you.
Poverty cure करो पहले.
Poverty
cure
It's
करो.
not as simple as that.
Radhika, you wanted to say something when you're hearing these women?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking that it is their choice. It's up to them, and I don't think it's up for us to be telling people how to make money. There are people who don't like that I'm a comedian. There are people who don't like that she's a gynecologist. There are people who don't like their daughters to go out to work at anything.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. And I really do believe that poor women are the minority in our country that are most vulnerable to all the worst things.
Okay.
And we won't stop until
Aditya, you want to
made.
have, yeah?
I just want to say that this is an anti-women bill. It's an anti-poor bill. It has nothing to do with like legalizing or helping the poor women. It's really making their effort worse, their lives worse. I had a very positive interaction with my surrogate, just like they're saying, and she furthered her life through our interaction. I furthered my life through my interaction with her. It helped.
But why
both.
not adopt?
That's another. You can still adopt. They
So
should
I'm
still
going
be
to
allowed
actually
to
get
do what
somebody
they're
who
doing.
adopted a child in a moment, but Pinky, go ahead.
My only concern is poverty a ground to do anything? So there are various means of making money. You can give your organ, you give your heart, you give your kidney, you give your liver, you'll get money. Would that be permissible?
Just to make the point, and I actually think we have a pretty liberal law where in sex work, as the debate rages on, we punish the pimp and we punish soliciting, but we don't punish the women. We don't criminalize the women. My problem with this is, are we now going to seek an underground mafia where we will criminalize women like Mandakini
No,
and
the
Jyoti?
question is not criminalized. Barka, the question really, as I pose it again, is only this much. Can poverty be a ground to do whatever you want to do? Can poverty be a ground for choice? That doesn't fit in the
all
bill.
the time and not pay your servants better. Why not improve
That's
the
my
power?
question.
That's completely.
Yeah, you have a question?
अगर इस तरीके से अपनी कोख को किराए पर देना जायज़ है और गरीबी इसके पीछे कारण नहीं है, तो फिर तो जो डांस बार में लड़कियां हैं उन पे जो बैन चलता है, सेक्स वर्कर्स पे जो होता है, वो भी बैन नहीं होना चाहिए. फिर वो
बिल्कुल नहीं होना चाहिए.
वैसे मैं तो कहूंगी कि नहीं होना चाहिए, लेकिन वो अलग डिबेट है. आप मंदाकिनी, आप क्यों नहीं, लेट वी आर नॉट कंपेयरिंग, बट उन्होंने सवाल रखा है, उनका सवाल है. Mandakini, आप
break marriages, surrogacy breaks marriages.
But I'm sure Mandakini can answer for herself. You don't have to answer on her
That
behalf.
is a very unfair statement. What do you mean by saying sex workers break marriages? Sex workers
husband
don't
and
sell
wife do
sex
not
because
agree
they want to
to it
break
together.
marriages. They sell sex because they're desperate. They
young
don't get
children
into
and
sex
all.
work
And this
because they
bill
want to
will
break
push
marriages.
people into prostitution.
Yes.
This bill will make it worse.
Sex workers should
This
be
bill will
legalized.
push
One
these
minute,
women
guys,
into
I can't
prostitution.
follow it because you're all speaking together. There is a question here. Let Mandakini answer and you can come in on that. यहाँ पे इन्होंने कहा कि अगर ये अलाउ करें तो फिर डांस बार में जो लड़कियां नाचती हैं, जो सेक्स वर्क होता है,
वो तो बहुत गलत हो जाएगा. कल हमारी बच्ची के ऊपर क्या पड़ेगा? हमारी बच्ची को कोई पूछेगा जो क्या कर रही है, तेरी मम्मी क्या कर रही है, तेरी वो पूछेगा, जो वो बोलेगा जो मेरी मम्मी झाड़ू पोछा करे, फिर मेरी बच्ची के ऊपर क्या असर पड़ेगा? मेरी मम्मी बार में डांस कर रहा है.
Very good, very good. She said very true.
Okay,
ये तो बच्चे
let's
को
move on.
पता
Let's
नहीं
move
है
on.
ना.
1 minute.
हमारे बच्चे को ये
1
पता
minute.
नहीं है
1
कि
minute.
माँ क्या कर रहा है. ये हम तो गलत काम नहीं कर रहे हैं ना मैम. ये तो गलत काम कर
Okay,
रहे हैं.
now,
कोई डांस बार में हम डांस नहीं कर रहे हैं.
I want to say that there's a whole value judgment here attached to dance bars and sex work
I don't
that we
agree
need
that
to
dance
beware
bars
of.
will
And
be
Lalita, as you
considered as
said,
sex workers.
you actually you came on this show
Yes.
and supported the legalization of
Yes,
sex work.
and
So
you
you're
know
not
what a
attaching
furor
a
there
value.
was. No, I'm not. मैं आपसे एक प्रश्न पूछना चाहती हूँ. अगर वो लड़की शादीशुदा नहीं है और वो ऐसा करे तो वो गलत है क्या?
नहीं मैम,
वो
ये
शादीशुदा नहीं है,
शादीशुदा
कैसे
को
करेगी?
लेते
क्यों
भी
नहीं?
नहीं
नहीं.
एक एक करके बोलो मंदाकिनी.
शादीशुदा नहीं कर सकता ना. ये तो गलत हो
Already
जाएगा.
regulated. It's already regulated.
Okay.
Self-regulated.
Okay, so they don't. आपको लगता है कि कोई शादीशुदा नहीं है तो उनको बच्चा नहीं
There
करना
is
चाहिए.
already a value judgment there. In India, women
उनकी
are
तो लाइफ है, वो
always
तो
judged.
शादी करेंगे, उनकी भी बच्चा हो सकता
Whatever
है
they
ना.
do.
This is a statement of a lady who's doing it. She has a value judgment here. So you can't put it on the heads of various people who've done
But
the
I
job.
can disagree with that value judgment.
You may disagree or agree, but
and I
that's
do.
a view.
Okay, now, Aditya Tiwari, the other Aditya here, actually did this marvelous thing of adopting a child as a single man with Down syndrome. And he had to write many letters to Menaka Gandhi. And he only got married after he became a father. So my problem with this bill is it doesn't understand modern love in the modern family. It's so way beyond, society has moved so well beyond all this. Aditya himself is an example where aapki shaadi baad mein hui, you became a father first, right? And you adopted a child with special needs, a child with Down syndrome. आपने adopt किया, लेकिन आपको लगता नहीं ये and God bless you for it, but आपको लगता नहीं ये एक personal choice है? आप surrogacy के खिलाफ हैं कि आप समर्थन करें?
जो बिल आया है, I'm supporting that.
क्यों?
Okay, because we have the live example. कुछ discussion करने से the country we are having of 125 करोड़ 25-50 लोग के बोलने से या उनके साथ जो पॉजिटिव हुआ है, we cannot come to the conclusion. What she is saying, because of the poverty, उनके पास money नहीं है, right? But they have an option to get a 3 lakh rupees within 8 or 9 months. तो कौन उसे ऑप्ट नहीं करेगा? They don't know कि उसके क्या प्रॉब्लम्स हो सकता है. There might
आप
be a
खुद की
problem.
बात करिए. अब आपने शादी की. Let's say you want a second child after you got married, और आप नहीं produce कर पाए biologically. Would you consider a surrogate?
I will adopt a child. Adoption is the right thing. We should go and support the adoption. Adoption में क्या problem है? There is no problem. See, the people are saying individual adoption is also one option. Yes. Surrogacy is also one option.
Yes.
Exactly.
And we have the adoption, so we support it.
Absolutely.
But why not support?
One more point. What she said, एक और उन्होंने जो point बोला कि they don't have that much love with the child. In case अगर parents,
the ones who, the surrogate mothers.
yes, both the ladies, तो उनके पास उनको कुछ केयरिंग नहीं है, उस बच्चे से कोई इतना लगाव नहीं है. In case अगर parents ने उन्हें reject किया, then
other surrogates.
Yeah.
Which is not the experience of other surrogates. All research points out that surrogates have a huge problem in surrendering their baby.
or whatever the law.
I'm sure they
All right, let's take questions. Let's take questions. Let's take questions.
Talk about it.
Before I put forward a question, let me clarify. It is unfair to compare surrogacy with organ transplant. In kidney transplant, organ is given off. Here, organ stays there with the woman. Yes. It should be compared with blood donation.
Exactly.
Yes. It should be compared with blood donation. So it's a wrong comparison which people have.
Okay, now comparison with blood donation is also something that may not be accepted. I will put that to Kamini. Kamini, is there a cap currently, because this bill is not yet law, on the number of times women are used as surrogates? Because one does hear horror stories of 3 times, 4 times the same womb being used.
As long as the bill in its current state says that they must have a child of their own, and of course they can go for 1 surrogate pregnancy. Now, but how are you going to regulate a woman who comes in the south, has a baby there, and then goes to the north and goes to another clinic and has another baby there? And I would say right from the beginning itself that regulation is required.
Okay.
You must have a national registry.
Yeah.
You must be able to see this so that you can protect the woman, the surrogate. And that
But
is
you're
what
saying
I
this
think.
goes too far.
It goes too far.
Okay.
I am a doctor. I'm into IVF for last 20 years. And what nobody has addressed is what about this poor infertile woman? She's undergone IVF 6 times, 7 times. She's born without a uterus, or she's lost her uterus because of some fibroids or because she has early stage cancer. So what does she do? You have horrors. You have horror
Can I
stories.
ask you something there? I'm a little disturbed with this reasoning because it also doesn't address the premium on women to be mothers. It makes them feel incomplete if they're not mothers, and that is just as anti-woman as this bill.
Radhika, that's a societal fact. That is the environment in which this surrogacy bill has come.
One minute, Radhika, we can't support the right to surrogacy in the name of this poor woman on whom the whole world is falling down because she's not a mother.
I think that we should all stop having children, period. But that's me.
She wants it herself.
They're a buzzkill, they're hallelujah.
Okay.
You can't say that, because how many of you, Dr. Kamini is sitting here or Naina is sitting there, we've all in our clinics had these patients. You can't just brush them off aside and say, no, you don't have any rights. We are talking of rights. You have rights. I believe, I support you when you say that a single person also has a right. A single mother, we are in a modern age. We are not in 18th century. You are taking us to 18th century. You are taking us to dark ages, and you are the one who will decide, I'm not married, I want a kid. Who are you to tell me not to have a child?
Right, I agree.
I agree with that. I agree fully with that. I was just making adding a point, ma'am, that we should also not make those who are infertile, make infertile feel like an abuse of some kind or an inadequacy. By all means, people may really want a child.
That is the environment in which this surrogate bill has come. Why do you think they steal babies from government hospitals? They go run, they pretend they're pregnant. You get prosthetics to have a womb growing, and the rates are also, they're quite reasonable.
So I'm just saying that we do have to keep that in mind, that there is a premium on biological motherhood.
Yes.
That we need to keep in mind when we talk about this. That's all. I agree with you on everything else. But yes, as Aditya said, choice. It all comes down to choice. Now, I have here a couple who actually did go in for a surrogate mother at a pretty late stage in their lives. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourselves? Where are you from?
I'm from Alibag. I'm Satyaj Dali from Alibag. I go to Cineplex, multiplex in Alibag.
Yeah.
And she's my wife, Bharti.
Bharti Dali.
Okay, so now your daughter died at the age of 19, yes? Saina. How did she die?
She hit and run accident.
Oh my God.
In Pune.
In Pune.
In Pune.
Pune, she was in a university over there, studying over there, and just left her for one day. I came to for a religious ceremony at home, and while she was crossing the road, one mobile came. He was on the wrong side of the road. He crossed and hit her, and he just ran away.
And how old were you when Saina died?
It's 14 months back.
How many?
14 months.
14 months only. I didn't realize it was that recent.
Very recent, yes.
And you decided you wanted another Saina,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So what happened? Tell us.
Then we find on the net which doctors are good. So we found Naina Ben Patel on the net. So we went to Anand because she is Gujarati. Bharti, she is a Patel from my Patel family. I am Maharashtrian, she is Patel. And then we went to Gujarat, Anand, we seen her all records. She got 1,000 babies, so we chose her to have a baby. And we benefited through a surrogate mother.
Has the child been born?
Yes, and we gave a name Saina also, and the same principle.
God bless her.
And just born 10 days before. Just 10 days before.
She was born 10 days
10
ago.
days ago.
Oh,
yes.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
To Naina Ben.
You are very happy.
Very helpful.
And you've named her also Saina.
Saina.
Yes, yes.
And tell you honestly, the surrogate mother not been exploited. They've been protected by both the ways. They were protected by the parents like us and by doctors also. It is a very great thing we're doing for a surrogate. They've not been exploited. And let me tell you that frankly. They've been well protected, well developed.
And you feel your daughters come back in a kind of reincarnation.
Yeah,
So
it's a miracle. Yeah, it's
It's a miracle.
Miracle, yeah. Naina Ben has done that for us.
NRI people should not stop because they consider Indian mothers the best in the world. Because they're the only woman in the world who consider a husband is a god and family is a temple.
Okay, I want to ask you something. 1 minute. I want to ask you something. You could have adopted, right? But you felt the need for your own biological child. Now that is at the heart in some ways of this debate. Can you explain why adoption was not an issue?
Go ahead.
Even if you have a biological child of your own, if it's a girl, it's not acceptable still. So where is the question of adoption over here?
What do you mean? This is a girl. You've had two girls.
I'm accept. For me, it's acceptable. But family people still want a son.
Secondly, we don't wanted somebody's child. So in future, he must have done any mischief. Or he must have behaved wrong. We always going to feel that he is not my blood. So we wanted our blood to be there. So we will not consider the adoption is this thing. Because we don't know whose child he is, what blood he is. Now we
But is that fair? Suppose you... I mean, that I have a problem with, right? That I have a problem with. Because Naina. Firstly, did they use their own sperm and...
Yes.
Not the egg. So there is a fallacy in the argument to begin with. 1 minute. आपने अपना स्पर्म और किसी और का एग यूज किया तो वो आधा तो किसी और का है ही टेक्निकली
but we 80% this is my blood, at least I'm confident for the this thing adoption. I don't know who is he.
This is not a gestational surrogacy. It's half. So it is the.
I'm just saying we also have to change this attitude that the child adopted. पता नहीं वो क्या child है. All right, I have to take.
The possibility cannot be changed.
Okay. I'm taking last comments now. I'll take 1 or 2 questions if anybody has questions.
I would just like to say
you can just make a last comment. Yes.
Thank you. As said by you, it's particularly depending upon the options of what a person wants. As it is said, adoption it's a really good deed if a person is adopting, but for a person who's wanting to go for a surrogate child, that's wrong. And having been said that, we're talking about so many problems who've been left out. Take the example, it's the BJP's government before as well. Why haven't they introduced such a kind of legislation before if they wanted so? It's just a thing which they're actually coming up with their own means and ends.
Okay, we'll get last comments. So let's just take a couple of last comments.
So as a woman and as a part of the healthcare industry, my basic question is the government trying to play God? Are we trying to decide fates? Who decides gets to have a child? How to have a child?
When
so G for government and G for God. Is this how it's going to work now?
No, this is the new God particle that...
New God.
That's a good
okay,
one.
last question and last comments.
Yeah, I want to know, in altruistic surrogacy wherein a family member has to be a surrogate, how about the psychology of the child who will be brought up within that family, and how the child will feel that it is this mother who bore me for 9 months and delivered, and this is my biological mother. There will be a lot of confusion in the mind of the child.
Yeah. So altruism is a kind of very complicated area as well. Let's start taking last comments. Pinky, we'll start with you.
My only question is...
30 seconds, everybody.
Are we ripe for doing everything that we want to do? I mean, is it an open society to say, I have a right, I have a choice, I can make every choice that I want to make? The question is, can you allow... Is it a matter of choice? Can the government regulate? Because ultimately, this is to be regulated.
Do you support regulation or a ban?
It is supposed to be regulated. Right now, you have a position where you permitted altruistic surrogacy, which hitherto happened in society informally, but now it is legalized to the extent of going forth. Aren't you supposed to look at protecting the rights of who come forth in this entire scenario?
Okay, Radhika.
I just think a woman's body is not a democracy, it's a dictatorship. It's up to us. Only we decide on what to do.
Yeah. Well said. Aditya.
I think this paternalistic attitude of trying to tell women what to do, poor people what to do. This is not about, it's not about, if you're concerned about the poor woman, start paying your servants more, start trying to help the poor more, help them come up, start paying them 300 lakhs a year. If you're that concerned, pay your servant 3 lakhs a year.
He's an American, he's bringing us democracy.
Yeah.
Well, you're a Christian and you're bringing us your values. We don't want them.
That this reification, I have deep problems with the way choice is being reified.
Yeah.
I would like to bring in the concept that black Americans put to the white American feminists, saying, where is the concept of justice? And you cannot have justice in an unequal world.
Nana.
It is not an unequal word. These are two adults knowing any contract is always between unequal, whether it's a contractor or a filmmaker or whoever is employed.
Exactly.
So it can never be between two equals. And the law has been made by people who have not considered the stakeholders like the infertile couples and the surrogate mothers. They've sit in the office and decided what is to be done.
At a time when the BJP government says make in India and gets across to all the foreign countries and then tries to get money from all of them for investment in India, but you will not allow a PIO, you will not allow an NRI, but you need their money, but you don't want to give a service.
Renuka?
Very good. I think the key point here is moderation and being a little more sensitive to the needs of our societal values. Now this I hate it when it comes crawling out of the woodwork that this is our moral values, and that, I mean, I don't know if you have a bath bag here, but you know, that really makes me want to throw up, because Nirbhaya was not a moral value of India. And we have atrocities where children of 3 years, 5 years are raped every day. We haven't addressed those issues. So please don't wander into these.
Lalita, that is the problem right now. It's the problem is that instead of regulating, you've made a sweeping judgment on how, as that young woman there said, the government is playing God. I think it's actually worse. I think the government is policing our bedrooms and our private lives.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I don't think that's it at all. As I said right in the beginning, this is not an effort to pass judgment on anybody. It's basically an effort to try and see that Indian women are not misused more than they already are.
No, but you said a single woman can't have a child. You said a single partner, a single.
Okay, let her complete. I have to close the show. I have to close the show. Wrap it up. I have to close the show. I have to close the show. I have to close the show.
How do you disqualify a single person?
I'm not here to have. I'm not. Barkha, I'd like to say I'm not here to have a shouting argument. I never interrupt when other people talk. Let me talk.
Please.
Last comment. Last comment.
If you permit me, I will say what I want to say. Otherwise, I'm not going to say it. Right. This is an effort to try and see that both the rights of the unborn child or the child that's going to be born and the women in India who are regularly misused on very, very many different platforms and in different ways, which doesn't make it right at all, are protected. Now, if there are gaps in the bill, it's not yet been passed by the India. It has not yet been passed by Parliament. I'm sure that people will be willing to take other people's opinion on board. That's why it's put out on the net.
I will say we
for
leave
everybody's opinions to be heard. The assumption that's made here, which offends me greatly, is that the government is made up its mind.
I will leave it here. I will leave it here, ma'am.
I have a short comment. Thailand banned surrogacy when the circumstances happened where the child was abandoned. You have to regulate this field. You can't leave it.
Regulation is one thing. Regulation is one thing. A ban is quite another.
We are saying regulate.
I have to end. Regulation is one thing. And please do not attach moral values to people's private choices. I think that is key and really needs to be separated from the larger debate. Leaving it there. Thank you very much. Thank you.